Welcome back to Pariah Nation, where we aim to discuss African history, politics, and culture, as well as issues affecting Africans on the continent and the diaspora. Today we'll be expanding on the points made in our most recent video, where we address the misrepresentation of Africa through the media, academia, and popular culture. In light of this misrepresentation, I will be debunking 3 myths about ancient Africa, specifically south of the Sahara, that are widely believed by many around the world to be true. Let's get right into it. Myth number 1, Africans only lived in huts. A phrase one is bound to hear as an African is that we all lived in huts. Undoubtedly, today this is false, but many believe this to be the state of the continent before colonization, and also go as far as to suggest that if we had not been colonized, we would still be living in huts. This too is false, as we will show momentarily. Before beginning, however, it is important to see the issue with the statement at hand. Proponents of this claim have fallen prey to the ethnocentric logic that places stone architecture at the top of the cultural hierarchy. They then assert that any society that lives in huts is automatically uncivilized. Obviously, this is untrue, and it discounts the wide range of cultures present around the world and the fact that these societies have different needs that will affect how they choose to erect their buildings. Therefore, this statement is inherently biased and widely ignorant of the cultural diversity present around the world. To debunk this claim even further, let's mention some of the countless places on the African continent that have either used stone architecture in the past or have produced world-renowned structures without using stone. One example can easily be found in the city of Aksum, where some of the world's biggest monoliths lie. The Aksumite Empire is known to have erected stelae, tall, thin, standing stones of which the largest have been carved to represent multi-storied buildings, according to Connah in his book African Civilizations. Upon counting, archaeologists have identified over 140 of them, one of the tallest reaching 28 meters high. It should also be noted that these amazing structures were built without a crane, despite some weighing between 300 to 500 tons. Another example of an African society using stone structures comes from Southern Africa, specifically the Kingdom of Great Zimbabwe. The kingdom is known for its stone ruins and trade in gold, the former of which we will focus on today. The main stone enclosure was built in the 14th century using cut granite blocks and without mortar. It is important to note that this structure was used as a royal residence, while ordinary citizens did mainly live in huts. Once again, this shows that the civilization did possess knowledge of how to build in stone, although they applied this knowledge differently compared to other cultures around the world. Additionally, the Benin Wall in West Africa serves as an example that one need not build in stone to build an impressive structure. It has been recorded by archaeologists that the Benin Wall is an estimated total length in excess of 16,000 kilometers. And according to the Guinness Book of World Records, these are the largest earthworks completed before the mechanical age. Once again, this casts doubt on the argument that great structures must be built using stone, or that the use of stone is an indication of a great civilization. The list of stone structures south of the Sahara extends far beyond the scope of this video, but we should briefly note that stone structures did stand in places like Kumbisale, the Swahili states, and in other kingdoms in southern Africa. Myth number 2, Africa had no writing. This is another claim that many lay people have accepted to be true, and some Africans have also implicitly accepted this myth by claiming that the colonizer brought us writing. Before I debunk this myth, it's important to note that I'm not arguing that writing was common in Africa amongst the general population, or that writing was a core part of all African societies. What we do know is that writing was usually reserved as a form of communication between nobles or priests in many African communities. One exception to this rule is the vice script of Liberia. This script was invented in the 1830s by Momolu Dualu Bukele, and could have been the first publicly used indigenous script in the region that was not of colonial origin. The script was propagated through the establishment of schools that taught Vai, and according to some scholars, the rate of literacy amongst the 19th century Vai was in some areas greater than in many areas of the United States and Europe. Scholars such as P.E.H and Sven Holso have suggested that the Vai script could have been influenced by the Cherokee script, through interactions with the Native Americans who traveled to Liberia and the Vai people themselves. But that debate is far beyond the scope of this video as well. Our next script comes from Ethiopia once again. Ge'ez script has been used as its own syllabary since the 4th century AD, and has recently been used to write languages such as Amharic, which is widely used in modern-day Ethiopia. It is most likely that this script originated from Christian scholarly circles in Ethiopia and diffused into lay society to become a more popular script later on in history. Today, there are more than 250,000 old manuscripts that still survive in modern-day Ethiopia. These are just two of the many indigenous scripts that have come from Africa, some of these being Tifinagh script from North Africa, Nsibidi from West Africa among the Igbo, Bamum from Cameroon, Osmania from Somalia, and more. Myth number 3. Africa was a dark continent, isolated from the rest of the world before slavery and colonialism. Unfortunately, this claim compared to the others is more widely believed to be true because of a general lack of knowledge on African history as a whole. This myth was also propagated as one of the justifying premises of the colonial enterprise that Africa was isolated, savage, and needed to be brought into the civilized world, although we now know that this was nothing more than colonial distortion and fabrication. The truth is easily seen when one takes a look at Africa's complex trading routes. We know that East and Southern Africa were characterized by a well-established economic interaction with Arabian and Asian countries long before the arrival of Europeans. Moreover, we also know that at one point the Romans had extensive trading relations with several coastal cities in East Africa, and in fact, some of these cities were even mentioned in the Roman documents of the first 3 centuries AD. We also have accounts from Portuguese traders that suggest that Great Zimbabwe and Mwenemu may have been involved in an international trade system including the Kilwa Sultanate and possibly even China. This was confirmed when archaeologists found the following artifacts in Great Zimbabwe: a 14th century Syrian glass, a 14th century Persian faience, and a 16th century Chinese celadon. It is clear from this evidence that these regions were far from disconnected from the rest of the world. The same applies to many empires in West Africa, such as the Mali Empire, where in the 14th century Ibn Battuta saw 1,150 cowries being sold for 1 gold dinar. This becomes important when we find out that Ibn Battuta also reports the same currency of cowrie shells being used in the Maldives. Altogether, this may indicate that a complex trade route formed between West Africa, the Arab Peninsula, and Asia in the medieval period. If this was the case, it is easy to see how misguided it is to claim that Africa as a whole was isolated from the rest of the world. In conclusion, we have seen that over the course of history, African history has been subjected to many distortions. Unfortunately, these myths have seeped into popular culture and have been widely propagated as the truth. As Africans, it is imperative that we immunize ourselves from such toxic ignorance and learn more about the power behind our history. Otherwise, we risk once again leaving our history to be told by those who take no interest in preserving it. Once again, this is Pariah Nation, and we'll see you in the next video.